ladies and gentlemen, we probably live in the best time period in Detroit baseball in the social media. In the social media era. It is June 2nd. It is 10 o'clock on a Monday night. Welcome to Tigers Minor League Report recap here. And the Tigers are up 13-1. Dylan Smith is making his Major League debut, showing why, what he was doing in Erie and Toledo was no fluke. I know it's the White Sox. I understand that. Yeah. But when you go out there and have Kerry Bonds, Kerry Carpenter taking care of business, hitting 3 home runs, makes things easier for you. When you have Dylan Dindler hit a home run, when you have everybody in the lineup, foreseeably, I think pretty much everybody got hit, I think. I'm not 100% about that, but...
Let's see.
I think so. Javi got one a little bit ago. Colt got one, so I think we're all good.
McKinstry is the only player who didn't get a hit, but he walked and scored a run. And Torkelson was just hanging out on the bench today, which is nice.
I kind of figured at some point Torkelson was going to wrestle the bat out of somebody's hands. Let me in there. Come on.
Yeah, sprinting up to the batter's box right now.
Give me a swing here.
Parker Meadows comes back and immediately looks like an impact player on both sides of the ball. Again, White Sox, but still a major league team.
Yeah. Diving catch right off the bat.
Yeah.
You got crazy defensive plays. Riley Green with the great sliding catch, the Dingler McKinstry assists catch.
Yep, the shoestring something or other.
A fun game.
Javi with the diving spear and throw. Yeah, we're kind of doing it all out there.
Yeah, and over the weekend, the Tigers combined, so including the Tigers and Erie, the Tigers went 28-7 as an organization, something like that, to that effect.
27-7, I think we figured out.
27-7 as an organization last year, or this past week, because you count the sweep with the Giants, and then the 2 out of 3 against the Royals. Toledo has won 8 in a row. Erie went 4-2. West Michigan swept Dayton, and that was their first road sweep in franchise history.
Was it theirs? I know it was Dayton's first
Hasty.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Dan Hasty tweeted that out earlier, the Whitecaps did, but that was their first road sweep in franchise history, and the first one in Dayton, I believe, or whatever the case is.
And they were vicious beatdowns all week long too. Like if any of the players are out there, like, you guys remember the concept of mercy? Poor Dayton. Poor Louisville. It was just those were ugly games. They just torched everybody. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. No, and Louisville, and here's the thing about the Bats, they still are not a good ball club. Every time I see them in Toledo, they're just not. It's like the shade of, you talk about the equivalency of 4A. That is what the Louisville Bats are. Yeah,
I mean, and imagine being the Reds, like the Reds equivalent of us right now, right? Like they have 2 minor league teams that just got swept in devastating manners. Yeah. Both of them lost because of late grand slams.
Down to the final out, Jose Briseño.
They were down to their final strike.
Yeah,
there was nobody. Bases empty, 2 outs, 2 strikes on Bennett Lee, and he walked. And then, I think it was an error. McGonigal reached on an error, I think, and then Clark walked, and then Briseño. I don't remember what it was, but just like, oh God, we have to pitch to him.
Yeah. And they tried not to the next day. Like, what did you draw 3 walks on Sunday? They were trying to stay away from Mr. Briseño for sure, but we had a little bit of a debate trying to add up all the grand slams they hit last week too. It was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah. And it was a Denny, if you're a fan of Denny's, I mean, it was just a grand slam palooza, if you will, and it's just I will say, even the bullpens too on both sides, West Michigan's bullpen and Erie's bullpen have allowed the Tiger. I mean, all of them, all the bullpens this week performed really well. Well, the exception of one blown save by Erie.
Oh yeah,
there were some extenuating circumstances there too, though. I will say that.
And Mr. Gouache just got here. So.
Yeah, he just got here. Yeah, it's first time in a while. And the Seawolves are staying red hot because the Akron Rubber Ducks will not lose, and that was a chance to. Yeah. I had a chance today, by the way, for anybody that goes to our YouTube channel. We have a new breakdown with first time Colin did his first breakdown. He broke down Matt Sillinger, and then I had a chance to talk to Roberto Campos in Spanish. So there's English subtitles. It was more comfortable for him to talk Spanish, and all the English is right there. So literally, if you don't mind reading for 6 minutes, it's thanks to Roberto Campos and Erie Seawolves for setting that up. It was really cool to get a chance to talk to him, especially about a season. The Power's coming along shortly. But the fact he's seen the ball better too. But another thing too that I didn't even consider, he mentioned the impact of Andrew Graham in Erie quite a bit, and that's something he talked about today. And that the guys are staying together. And the reason why I bring that up is because you have Brissing, you have Clark, you have McGonigal, and there's just like this immediate fever. And Lynn Henning even mentioned it today about them calling up. The season ends in a few weeks, first half of the season, I should say.
Yeah.
We'll probably see something there because they want to keep these guys together, and there's a camaraderie with that. And Campos talked about that today a little bit with Graham and some of his teammates. It goes across the board. These guys are human. And Chris, you talked about this yesterday a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think fans, and understandably, you always just think about like, okay, you don't necessarily think about the humans behind this. And the example we gave when we were talking about this is say, Max Clark gets promoted to Erie. Well, the corresponding move either is somebody from Erie has to go up to Toledo, or they have to get knocked down to West Michigan, or they have to get cut or sent to the developmental list. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it would probably be somebody like Ben Malgeri, who actually is on the IL now. But so then Ben Malgeri, who's been with these guys for like 3 or 4 years, is gone. And you've got Max Clark, this, hotshot young guy coming into that dynamic where all Malgeri's friends are there. Like it's natural. Like we treat these guys like, oh, they should just understand that he's a top prospect and he deserves to be here. And it's like, no, my buddy who I've been playing with for 3 years and on every bus ride is gone. And now this kid is here. And they understand it, right? Like,
right. And they'll handle it too, but it's still a factor. Yeah. At first, at least. Yeah.
And so there's a way to do it where, the veterans at AAA might, go on somewhere else or get released and try to find another job, and you can move some guys up or move some guys to the developmental list or whatever. But yeah, it's not as easy as just saying, we're promoting them. Who cares? Like there's more to it than that.
And we are, we are all numbers guys, but yeah, like the more and more, like you're right about the team and like cover them and just see how things work out. Wait a minute. Did Wenzel? Okay. Just making sure Wenzel didn't just homer off a position player. But yeah, I mean, like Brasino and Lorenzo seemed really tight last year in the AFL. Like they were both out there rooming together. Those guys are tight. You see that Parker Meadows, like this entire time has been like, tweeting about the team. He's there. He's paying attention. They're all super stoked to see him come back. It is really a tight knit group. I did the White Sox podcast last night with Crystal. And that was something I had to keep bringing up is that, like the cult, there's just something permanently wrong with the White Sox culture. And somehow AJ Hinch and now Scott Harris have really, really gotten the Tigers into such a great position. Garco as well. Huge factor. All the minor league coaches and managers. These guys just all seem to get along pretty well and like each other, even while they compete against each other to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense to wait a little bit and make sure Clark and McGonigal can move up together. It's not hurting anybody. Kevin McGonigal will probably hit AAA pitching like sight unseen. I don't really have a whole lot of doubt about any of that, but giving him another 3 weeks worth of at bats when he missed a month of the year already, not a problem. Brasino making sure he can get his catching reps in for a little bit longer before they decide what they're going to do on that score. We all want to see guys called up because it feels like they're closer to the majors that way, but they're as close as they are. When they develop well enough and they're ready to go, they're going to be up. Dylan Smith didn't have to stop at AAA long because they took one look at the stuff and the strike throwing and thought, yeah, this kid can help us now. So, you don't have to worry too much about the promotions. It can be, it's a popular thing to talk about. We don't know what to talk about right now because we don't have enough problems to deal with. And it's a baffling, I've never been in this situation before. We're like arguing about what reliever to trade for. And, can we find a shortstop to replace Trey Sweeney? We're really, really cutting it fine as far as like trying to find topics. I feel a little bad for the sports talk radio guys as far as baseball goes because what are you going to say? We rule.
We're going to trade. No, they're doing the Tarik Skubal 40.
There was.
That's right.
Somebody like this morning or yesterday was talking about can you really pay Skubal when he doesn't go more than more than 90 pitches or whatever.
Oh God! All right, I shouldn't even bring up those guys because it's nonsense every time. But
it's May, folks. It's May.
Okay? Trying to find topics is tough.
I get it. Yeah, this is a time of year. Thankfully, it sucks that Frank Ragnow retired today for the Lions. That sucks. Yeah. But that also just totally destroyed the Tarik Skubal. Oh, he's only going 90 pitches and You should go out there and throw 130, 248, 539, and then Pat
Why was
Caputo,
Justin Verlander able to, Justin
Yeah.
Verlander used to throw 125 pitches every game, threw 104
Well,
miles per hour, through a guy's chest one time, I remember.
I mean, I'm not saying that we have the monopoly on the minor leagues, but Pat Caputo come out of nowhere. Oh, look at Kevin McConnell's doing really good. Well, no shit, Sherlock. I mean, that's something we've been posting out for a while now.
Yeah, I don't know. We looked at earlier when people were talking about it. Is Skubal has the fourth most innings pitched of anybody in baseball this year, and actually third most. I think Crochet has one more start, but he's like 35th in total pitches.
Yeah,
And we should not be angry about that. We should be amazed and marvel at it, right? Like he's one of the most devastating strike throwers we've seen in a long time. Like he's like this is like Cliff Lee command with, I don't know, Randy Johnson stuff. I don't know who else you compare him to, right? Like a lefty who's throwing this hard.
Yep. And pretty much just throwing strikes, like going out there and throwing like 78, percent, either called or swinging strikes is just stupid. So yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen much like this. I mean, I watched all of prime Verlander, and there are aspects where Verlander was maybe better in certain ways, but I mean, I don't really think that anyone has really ever pitched much better than Tarik Skubal is right now. Prime DeGrom, maybe. That absolute peak DeGrom might have been the best I've ever seen of anybody. But
I would say, Randy Johnson in his peak, watching Randy Johnson pitch in his prime, like especially I watched the no-hitter against the Tigers in 1990. I mean, this is Tigers. I mean, this is a point the Tigers were kind of like the beginning of the end. But watching Randy, every time he went to a start. Well, when the Mariners came into town, my brothers, definitely, we always made a point to go them and the Oakland A's. The two teams we always wanted to watch. My brother was a big Ken Griffey fan, Junior fan, and Jose Canseco, all that, what have you. But watching Randy Johnson, when he was on, with that slider off the back foot, nobody could hit him. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, we're all, products of, we came up in the era when it was Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz, and then Randy Johnson, Pedro and Roger Clemens, like these some of the all-time great pitchers. And then we've been here for the next generation of that, right? Which was Verlander, Scherzer, Kershaw, like Greinke to a certain extent, guys like that.
King Felix, yep.
Yeah, but yes, it's. I think you're right. Like Skubal's doing things that even Verlander didn't do necessarily. What sets Verlander apart, obviously, is he was doing what he was doing 230, 250 innings a year. Like he was the last horse.
Yeah.
And it's just the way the game has changed now. If Skubal were asked to do that, he might be able to, but he's not asked to do it and he doesn't need to.
Yep. And of course it's worth remembering that the postseason is just a lot longer than it used to be. And so you have to be ready to pitch all that. I mean, Justin Verlander threw like 280 innings, I think, in 2011. Because he pitched in the postseason as well. So, it was the same thing for Tarik. What did Tarik throw last year total with the postseason included? Let's see. So 19 on top of the 192. So, I mean, basically, 211 innings. So you have to be ready to go that much and deeper into October. And then you have to get ready, with less time off than everybody else as well. So it's all worth keeping in mind. When I look at like Justin Verlander's like historical totals, I'm pretty much including all the postseason as well. I think they should do that going forward because it just doesn't make sense to have a guy pitch like the 4 or 5 toughest starts of the season and they don't even exist. You don't get credit for them, but you do have to like go into the off season with a month less time to prepare.
By the way, Charles, thank you for the $10.
Hey,
Charles. Yeah, here's the thing. Charles understood the assignment. If you want to ask us like questions to get ahead of the curve, throw us a couple bucks for a super chat because that goes a long way. So you get this
off the Frickers building
and a Dan Hasty
exquisite
for that. So his question is, do you think Scott Harris will trade prospects to improve the roster in July for October baseball or take the Orioles approach and hold on to every prospect? See, the thing is that I will say this. One thing about Harris is when he says something, he's going to do it. Like, he's been pretty consistent with that. And he did say last year in the offseason that he was going to trade, they're going to have to trade prospects. And this is the time you're going to have to do it because I think it's right now, you look at the swelling of, like, I'm glad that your boy Peyton Graham's coming around, Brandon, because I think that's helping his prospect status a little bit. for potential trade chip if down the line because his wrist he's healthy. Yeah, Pacheco. And a lot of these guys, they also have to make a ton of decisions on the Rule 5 coming up here. They have like 7 or 8 guys. They have to make a rule decision on Rule 5. So that being said, Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, it depends on what you're talking about in terms of what they're going to go do. Like, it's still a little early to know, like, which great players are going to be available, if any. But it does kind of feel like, every team could always use like another great frontline starter. And I don't know if one will be out there, but if somebody is available and then maybe you go get that, but it really does feel like they're just going to kind of add to the fringes. Does that make sense? Maybe like a legitimate closer if it comes to that, if somebody's out there. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of feel like I think they'll trade some guys, but I don't think it'll be like this giant, like, oh, that hurts. It just, I mean, you've got these guys now who are showing up and looking like legitimate trade prospects who you really have no place to put Max Anderson.
Yeah.
Absolutely no place to play him. Like,
exactly.
If you believe in Colt Keith at second base or Hao Lee at second base or McGonigal at shortstop second base or Rayner, like all these guys they're going to be there relatively at the same time.
Yeah.
There's no place to put them. So you can trade him and not feel it at all.
And you want to trade them while they're breaking out, you don't want to do, I mean, I don't know how much Jace Young would have ever pulled, but now is not the time to maximize his value. Not that matters that much at this point, but it just comes down to what do the Tigers need, and there isn't that much because it's really hard to upgrade. If you have a good player, I mean, you're either going after a superstar or you shouldn't bother, there's no point trading prospects to get one more WAR at this position. No matter how hard you want to push in for the postseason, and I was Captain Alex Bregman, so I definitely wanted to push in, but it's just a matter of like waiting to see. Baseball is going to hurt this team at some point. There's going to be an injury. There's going to be something that comes up that they actually have to fix. So I just don't think there's much chance of them being real aggressive until they sort of let as much time pass as they can, really assess the situation. And I mean, I'd love to see them go get an ace reliever, or a super hard thrower that needs some fixing that they think Fetter and and those guys can kind of tune up. Something like that makes perfect sense, but the idea that they're going to like trade for Bo Bichette because Trey Sweeney isn't having that good of a season, I think is pretty far fetched. And there's almost no chance in hell I would trade any of the top 5 prospects right now. The Orioles needed a lot of things last year, which is why everybody was on their case. Like they needed a lot in the pitching department to make a run, and they didn't get it, and they fell on their face. And now acrimony and God knows what else is going on there. Tigers have Tarik Skubal. Like who are you going to go trade Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal for exactly? Mookie Betts,
Paul Skenes.
Yeah, Paul Skenes. All right, there is one exception I am willing to make. I am willing to entertain that. But, what was shoot? I had something I was going to say. I don't know if I was confused by the comments, but somebody said, does Jace Young have any value? And I think he still does to a certain extent to a team that liked him when he was in the draft or have liked him through the minors, and you feel like maybe you can get him for a little cheaper than you could have before. And you've got the ability to give him enough playing time to figure it out, right? He's figured it out at other levels. He's been a good performer in the minors. He just hasn't hit at the major league level. And maybe you give him 400 plate appearances or whatever, and maybe then he figures it out. If not, you probably didn't give up someone who's a part of your long-term future. So I think there's some value there. It's not like, it's not going to get you back some sort of stud. Yeah, it's not going to even probably get you Mason Miller. Even a reliever like that is going to take, a top 100 guy at plus, maybe 2 of them. So Scott Harris just isn't that guy. He's not going to be that guy. And I think, his attitude is we're going to be really good for 10 years. And, a couple of those years, it's all going to come together for us in October, and that's the way they want to play it. So I think they'll get some.
Why?
Wow.
Well, we have to thank this man. We have to thank this man, Tony La Russa, made it all possible. So
I thought that was a Goonies outtake for a second.
Oh God, yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, we talked about that last night on the Sox podcast because I was like, that is the dividing line. The fact that you guys hired Tony La Russa and let AJ Hinch go, like right at that moment, I felt a great weight lift off me. A great peace settled over me through the force. And it took a while. The first couple of years weren't real pretty, but I mean, here we are now, and here they are.
Now I remember what I was going to say.
Or
Sorry. Jackson Jobe is injured. He went down with like a forearm injury, and we're all just kind of like, like,
It's okay.
We'll be fine.
A top 10 prospect coming into the year. I'm like, all right, they'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Like Montero,
so your Gyps and Longs coming back. We're good.
and Montero's been pitching very well lately, and I mean, you never want to see somebody get hurt or go down like that, but it's like they were going to have to monitor his innings anyway, and hopefully this doesn't become more serious, and he comes back and he's fine. But
maybe he's your ace reliever this year. I mean, who knows? There's all kinds of things that could happen.
Maybe he's the key piece in a giant trade. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
how much does Fran Yerber Montilla resemble a young Willie Adames?
Let's take your question. The one thing I mentioned in the show the other day was along with the idea of the Pirates is David Bednar, who has been a good closer in the past and had some rough go of it earlier this year, but is back and pitching well. And the Pirates do not need him at all.
Yeah.
And they definitely need bats. So I don't know. There you
Trade
go.
for one of the blonde mullet Oriole kids.
I know that.
That's so well done, Jacob Lewis. That was.
They do. I hate to say this, but they do all look alike. I cannot tell them apart. Yeah.
It looks like something out of Lethal Weapon 2 with when they're facing the
Gunner's the good one.
Yeah, the South Africans or whatever the Mel Gibson those
the Cougarans.
The Boomerangs.
Diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
Tyler brings up a question that I think that's been coming up quite a bit this evening, and we're going to end it once and for all. If anybody wants to send in the super chat for the answer, no, just all jokes aside, it is the Paul Skenes. Is it just on the trade block or just media?
No,
it's a bunch of media stuff. I mean, look, his girlfriend right now is in the spotlight because she did the splits during the Sports Illustrated Swimsuit edition. Yeah, there we go. So he's pitching phenomenally, and you look at what the Pirates are going through right now, PR wise, they're a mess. I mean, the Roberto Clemente thing with the stupid Surfside. If that's your preferred beverage, hey, knock yourself out. That's cool. You got that going on. You have your security guard whipping a guy like Pootie Tang because the guy spit on him.
Yeah, but that was a feature, not a bug in my opinion.
Yeah, but that guy deserved it though. That guy was
absolutely
a dick.
I was 100% in favor of that security guard.
It's a media thing. It is absolutely a media thing. Problematic VG, you're absolutely right. And it's to me, it's not like the Pirates are not going to trade a guy that literally is bringing an ass in the seats right now.
No. And there's no reason to trade him for at least like 3 more years, right? Like they're the Pirates, so they're eventually going to trade him to the Yankees.
Yeah.
Or
the Padres.
Yeah, somebody. But it's you got him for $750,000 a year right now. I mean, you could. There probably isn't. I think that the Jim Bowden thing was just because the Tigers are like the only team right now that has a package of prospects that would like theoretically even make sense, but I don't think it would still. Because you're still getting prospects for like one of the 2-3 best pitchers in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard to know how the Pirates think because nothing they do makes any sense except from the standpoint of not giving a shit and just trying to pocket as much money as possible. But I mean, there's nothing that you can get for Paul Skenes now that you probably can't get for Paul Skenes in 2 years. Like there's a certain point in which you can't add more to it really. So. I think we should target Jared Jones still. That's what I want.
Yeah, Jared Jones.
I mean he's on the IL, but you
try to get him when he comes. Yeah, try to get him when he comes back and stash that man.
No, it was funny too because the Pirates are repeating what the Kansas City Athletics or the old Oakland A's used to be essentially for the Yankees in the '60s, a farm system. The Pirates are basically the Yankees farm system now, the equivalency of it. But if you look how many trades they've done, it was the same thing when when the Yankees plucked Roger Maris. They plucked Jim, the guy who threw a perfect game, the only perfect game, Jim. Damn it, I'm gonna forget that. Whoever threw the only perfect game in World Series history, that guy was a former athletic pitcher. They used to poach guys from
Don Larson.
Don Larson, thank you.
Thank you.
Don Larson. They used to poach guys from Kansas City all the time, and that's what the Yankees are gonna do with the Pirates. At some point, they're gonna go, listen, just give us Paul Skenes for a bucket of balls. A couple of guys that you saw at Somerset and call it a day. That's what's going to happen.
And maybe not, because maybe the Yankees just don't have that good enough prospects. I wouldn't trade for anything from out of the Yankees farm system other than George
Yankees,
Lombard Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Yankees farm system has having it down. It's
Yeah.
Bob Nutting. That name says it all. Bob Nutting. I mean,
I will I will say, very early in the show, Mitch asked a question if they're going to DFA John Brebbia to make room for Sawyer Gibson-Long. I don't think that's I think the most likely scenario is you're getting either Job or Veerling to the 60-day IL.
Probably.
They don't ever want to cut guys unless they absolutely have
especially
to.
pitchers too.
Yeah.
I mean, they can still cut, Ryan Kreidler and Akil Baddoo and Brewer Hicklin. There's plenty of people they can cut if they decide to cut some people. Matt Manning. They're going to hang on to Brebbia and see if they can kind of get him tuned back in. They kept, I mean, it's not a very significant amount of money, but, they kept Kenta Maeda, and gave it as good a college try as they could. So, yeah, I would expect to see Brebbia, still for another month or two at least.
Yeah. And until they see what they possibly have with another pitcher down in either Double-A or Toledo right now, and so if they see another arm that merges like that, then maybe that could.
Yeah, if there's an obvious replacement, like maybe Tyler Madison comes back and is pitching great, or whoever Yosber breaks out, or somebody like that they want to add.
Yeah. By the way, Pootie Tang is a great movie. I've seen it once. I haven't seen it in I haven't seen it in almost 20+ years, but I saw it with my two roommates, and it was one of the funniest. I literally came home from working like a 13-hour shift at Best Buy, and they just started like, what is this? And I was laughing. I was in my sides hurt so bad.
Sadate. Well, he was just a character on the Chris Rock show, which was only on HBO for like 2-3 seasons, I want to say. But there were a lot of big name comedians who were on that show. Like was the first time I saw Wanda Sykes. Louis C.K. was on that show.
Yeah, he actually wrote Pootie Tang too. I believe he was one of the main writers in Pootie Tang too. So
that makes sense. Yeah, he was right in with all those guys back then. Yeah.
Parker Meadows already at 0.2 WAR.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's gonna. It's just a matter of time. And
I'm looking at it,
Yeah, but no, and here's the thing too. Another thing before we move on to Toledo and the rest of the farm club. When I look at the bullpen right now, and we were talking about this. Speaking of Brevia, pitched a scoreless inning tonight in place with Dylan Smith. If you look at the one thing the Tigers do have a problem with is technically right now, outside of AAA, the depth is kind of weak. It is kind of weak right now. So they need all the arms they can get because in theory, Enos has got a guy who will probably end up, who may pitch. You have the Nick, I can't say his name. Who's been off to a really good start. I still don't think, and I told this last week, Brandon, that I don't think Wilkill Hernandez is a guy that, unless he starts striking out more, guys, I don't think he's a dude next up. I think that he still has a little more polish to work on.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like the depth is kind of like you have to make a move, and that's where you have to, if you're being critical about this and really looking at this objectively, Flores is not, who knows when Wilmer Flores is coming back. If he is coming back at all. He has not been thrown in Lakeland. You have Alex Lang who's coming back at some point too, but what is he going to be? So I think they're going to go at every single external option, exhaust every single thing before they make a trade. And if they make a trade that makes sense, that for a guy that they can keep around for a couple years versus a rental.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like the Suarez idea, Chris, a lot. That's a good idea. It's just a matter of them going internal first before they go big.
Yeah. So. Yeah, they're just not the type to to make big trades or to give anything away until they absolutely don't have any other, options. So, or they've exhausted every other attempt. So, yeah, I don't really see anything coming in the near term for sure.
Is Gibson-Long starting out of the bullpen?
I don't think so. I assume he'll just start and maybe he'll have an opener, maybe kind of a thing. But
I think they like him as a starter. He's got a starter's mix. He's throwing strikes. Like he's one of those guys who looks like he's just come back fully formed from his Tommy John. Like you compare him to what you're seeing from Tyler Madison right now, and it's like, oh, he's got a long way to go still.
And Sawyer had the really long,
18
the really
months.
long run. Yeah, I mean, he should be good to go. I mean, he had as long
Yeah.
as Casey Mize did, and Casey Mize came back looking good. He just hadn't, kind of figured out the splitter and the slider, which he did this year. But he was plenty acceptable as a starting pitcher last year. And yeah, I would assume Sawyer will be just as well. Still has the extension, still has the changeup slider combo, and he should be good. Or at least, average, 3-starter, 4-starter territory, I would assume.
Yeah, and they will probably, and Jake, I agree with you. They'll probably put Foley on the 60-day for Sawyer Gibson Long, more likely, or Verling, because Verling, it doesn't sound really good with Verling right now.
No, when you take that long to rehab something and then you immediately re-injure it, it usually seems like it's going to take, at least the same amount of time to get back. Maybe not. Maybe they're being careful and it was just sore and it'll be better in a month, but it's hard to know.
So there's a weird roster quirk that generally leads teams to not. So they sent Foley down to the minors and then he was hurt.
Yeah.
So he's technically in the minors. So if you put him on the 60-day now, then he starts getting service time again. Teams don't like to do that for whatever reason. I think that's why Ty Madden is also not on the 60-day because he was in the minors. I think it would be Veerling or Joe, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, but as we said, there's still plenty of people you could just flat out DFA too. So
yep.
As far as Lane goes, there hasn't been anything updated as of yet. I mean, he's been throwing off the. Is he throwing off the mound yet, or I haven't seen anything.
I'm not.
They
sure
always mention him in those injury updates, but I don't remember. And he's another one that I think
what the last one said.
Alex Lang. He's on the 60-day IL, so yeah, they don't.
Yep. What about Freddie Pacheco, guys?
Yeah, not looking great. Not looking great just yet.
Yeah, he's he's not. He's on the comeback trail, but he's in West Michigan. They're kind of he's no rush to come back. Essentially,
yeah, it's been like 3 years really since he's really pitched too. So I'm kind of like, well, I don't know about that.
So the Mud Hens have won 8 in a row. They're in a half a game back, and then somebody on Twitter. Well, technically, because the way that Toledo does things in AAA, it doesn't really matter if they're a half a game back. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry that they were, 3 weeks ago, literally under 500 and one of the worst teams in the IL. And then because I said something, the way I worded something, well, technically, shut up. I hate when people do that stuff. Like, come on.
I don't really know what's the issue is because they're not. I mean, they're listed as 8 games behind because Lehigh Valley is on a ridiculous, 41-16.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think don't they pick the top team from the East and the West still? I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken. So I don't think it matters. But
they picked the overall record or something to that effect or something. It's a little different than the other other leagues, but it was just so weird.
Okay, so they're a game out of second place then. Jacksonville is 34-23 and Toledo is 33-24. They were 11 games under 500 and they are now 9 games over 500. It's been an insane run, and now they're getting Justin Henry Malloy back.
Yeah.
And this is an offense that has been really without him, like a big. They've had some. The young. They had. I mean, Lee is going back to what he's doing in Erie, which is carry the team on his back, kind of offense a little bit. And Parker Meadows being down there really helped. Kryler's been doing well, but it's been pitching. It's been pitching. Just like it is across the system. I mean, Lockhart's doing his thing. Enos Markovicius, who, I mean, it's what you might see him because, I mean, even though he doesn't have that kind of velocity, he's a guy who's a good control guy. But Hayu Lee, Chris, there was what was that stat about the velocity that you put up the other day?
Well, just watching him, I think they were playing Chase Petty, who was a former first round pick of the Twins, and they traded him to the Reds, and he's always been a hard thrower.
Mm-hmm.
And Lee's, hasn't hit velocity or four seamers at all, really. And he got 95 plus from Petty and smoked it to the pull field. I was like, all right, well, that's the last thing I wanted to see from him. And if he keeps doing that a little bit, then might see Hayu Lee in the big leagues in a month or so. Like, not necessarily that they need him, but injuries happen. Like Brandon was saying, things happen, and maybe it's Hayu Lee.
But as we've said a million times. I mean, great breaking ball hitter. Can handle anything else. Loves low 90s sinkers. It was just that one thing. Like you could just see he was just struggled with high four seamers, struggled with velocity, and seeing a few more of those get drilled is a very good sign, especially because he pulled the hell out of it too.
Yeah.
He was all over that pitch. So
was-
yeah, that's what you want to see. And Yuli is very young. Like, there's no pressure on him from our end. Certainly not that anyone gives a rat's ass what we think necessarily, but
No,
but
I mean,
we were going to give him plenty of time. But it wouldn't surprise me if Yuli figured that out. If he's an option in the second half as well for the Tigers.
in when you think about who they add to the roster at the end of the year when they expand it, in September, it's probably like Malloy or whatever, right? Like they're going to pick the guys who've seen some time, but they did it with Young last year, right? Like down the stretch. And then maybe that was just because they weren't contending at the time. They're like, let's see what we have.
That's true.
It could be because they're going to have to add Lee to the 40-man after the season anyway.
Yeah.
So they might just call him up,
and it might come down to whether Andy Ibanez can really get it going a little bit more, because otherwise then you have Malloy and Lee both have a lot, clearer path to having a role with them this year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And also, I mean, if you want, you can trade Lee. There's nothing. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
It would
you
be
can trade
kind of
Malloy,
a bummer,
Lee, Young. You can trade all those guys. It would. We wouldn't necessarily love it as fans of the farm system, but from a baseball standpoint, if you can get what you need for those guys, you just do.
Hey, I'm for it. I mean, look, the bottom line is this: if they can do what this is an example of what the Braves and the Cleveland did in the '90s. As you recall, when they couldn't barely had any room for these guys, they started trading them for key pieces. Like the Fred McGriff trade, the Braves got. They gave up a couple guys to get him. I look at Cleveland. I'm trying to think of Cleveland did a really good deal too, where they gave up like Brent Giles and a couple guys for. I think it was part of the Roberto Alomar deal, or.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think so. But either way, this is what good teams do. They'll trade their prospects for players that will be able to get a guy that's going to be effective. And by the way, Mitchell, I love that idea. I brought that up last week. He said any of the Camalos guys get Randy Rodriguez from San Francisco. That guy's a really good reliever. That'd be awesome.
Isn't he basically a rookie? Has he pitched much other than this year? He started last year. I don't know. I mean, it's San Francisco's still in the race, right? Like, and you don't normally trade guys who have like 6 years of team control left, but I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, it just doesn't seem like them to do that. Although obviously it's Buster Posey land now. So who knows? Knows, maybe they'll be more aggressive in that regard, but they were always pretty stingy about trading their better prospects, and were good about finding trades that would just help them, that would just give them
fringe guys, the fringe,
to fill in the weak spots, as opposed to going big. And we've never really seen that in the Tigers either. Like if people are worrying, oh, they're going to trade up. The Tigers never traded anybody good after Andrew Miller. It was just they were our top prospects and they weren't very good. Jacob Turner. These type of things never came back to hurt us. The only trades that were bad were the ones at the end when they had nothing left to trade, and they traded Suarez and Adames. And Adames wasn't necessarily a bad trade, but it didn't end up working out.
What didn't work out for the Seawolves?
It didn't work out. Yeah.
Is that they didn't get no separation from Akron, but the good news is they are playing Richmond, who is one of the worst teams. I think the worst team in the Eastern League.
Yeah,
they're coming home this week to play them. So, but no, the offense continues to click on. This was a good start here on Theron, who's coming around a little bit. He sat out a game or two, and there's some people that were like, "Oh, he looks like he's struggling." No, it's just
People are like, "Is he getting sent down to West Michigan?" I'm like, when's the last time they sent down? Like they actually sent a prospect down? Like it doesn't happen. Yeah. I mean, he's been battling some injuries all year, like a nagging shoulder, I think, right? And we talked about it. He's a young guy who jumped up to a very difficult jump in the minors, and he's a switch hitter. Yeah. So it's just there's a lot going on there. And he's a catcher, yeah. So give him some runway, man. And you see there, he's not hitting for average, but he puts up, he walks a ton and he's hitting for power, and that's what we expected. So I think he's doing just fine.
Yeah. Didn't he have he had a personal issue too?
Yeah.
I believe it. Yeah. He lost his father, right?
Yeah. I think it was. Father, yeah. I mean, and so, I'm not 100% sure, but the fact that he's even playing, I'd be like, I'm out for a month if I could, but that's just not the way baseball works. So yeah, cut the kid some slack, please.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, by the way, the catching. This is a good stat here by Chris. 14 home runs from the catcher position alone, and there was a discussion in Discord today too that the amount of catchers the Tigers are even in the DSL right now that's been going on. It is kind of a weird thing to see the Tigers are becoming a catching development. I don't want to say catching development thing, but I agree with you. Problematic. Look, Dinkler took time. Catchers take time, and Valencia is a good problem to have because he's going. Not only is he a good defensive catcher, all of a sudden he's showing that plus power. Mm-hmm. He's been like as Chris mentioned yesterday on our breakdown. He's been a backup the entire time. So you look at that and you're able to get production out of that with essentially a veteran team like the Seawolves who don't have a steady third baseman. I mean, they've been rotating guys in and out. Position player wise too. This is not a team that's set by position. What I mean by that is like it just seems like outside of Anderson, either you're going to get either Myers at first or Holton at first, or it's a different guy it seems like with the exception of Anderson and behind the plate a little bit.
Yeah, that's a veteran. I mean, it's an older veteran group. It's the kind of team that a lot of times we point to as like, this is why a team having a great record in the minor leagues doesn't necessarily mean you have great prospects. But in their case, they do have still some really good prospects. It's just that they've also got some pretty kick-ass veteran minor leaguers like, Trey Cruz, Carlos Mendoza, Jake Holton. Like these are the type of guys who could help you at, AAA or at AA. And, they're going to do their thing. They don't, apparently have any love for a potential major league career right now, but you never know if one of them takes a step, maybe they can help out. But, they're tough for young pitchers to deal with. These other teams bringing in their 21 and 22-year-olds to face those guys are in for a bad time most nights.
Yeah.
I said somebody was, here, pickles and peanut butter, 2566. He said, so who ends up catching in 2 years? They're on Lorenzo or Briseño. I think just look at the games played at different positions.
Dylan Dingler.
That'll tell. Well, yeah, Dingler. Yes, obviously he's going to be your primary catcher, but the Lorenzo has played only catcher since the Tigers acquired him. He hasn't played another position, whereas Briseño is like 50-50 first base, catcher, DH, if that makes sense. Like it's not really 50-50, but 33-33. Like they're catching him just because I think because it makes you more valuable if you could hit like that and catch. But I don't think he's as good of a catcher or good potentially as good as Lorenzo could be, and neither of them are really going to come close to Dingler defensively. Yeah, but I don't know. I think of those two, it's going to be Lorenzo.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of those guys could certainly catch in the major leagues, especially when framing isn't as much of a question. But neither of them is ever going to be a starting catcher for AJ Hinch in particular. Like the Tigers are just rightly super focused on great defense and game calling behind the plate, and they've got Dingler, and if you can hit enough and catch one game a week, maybe it'll be both of them. Maybe both of those guys will play first base and catch. But I mean, of the two, it's probably Lorenzo. Although I still think I don't know. I really am torn about that a little bit still. Lorenzo doesn't necessarily handle the ball as well, but he's a little bit more adept and just sort of like experienced feeling with blocking balls, with framing and the whole works. So, I mean, we'll see. Briseño's barely played. I mean, he's barely played baseball professionally at this point.
Yeah.
So,
not to mention too, he's been getting hit in the shoulder twice. He got hit in the shoulder twice.
With backswings.
Backswings the last span of 2 weeks. So I think he has an arm to play the catcher, but I still think first base is a long-term position. But by the way, somebody was asking if the Tigers sweep the White Sox was last time they've been over 20 games over 500, and that would be exactly on June 16th, 2005 or 2006. Wow. Squad.
They haven't been 20. They weren't 20 games over in any of the years.
I would think so. I was gonna say, like, I mean, maybe I'm sorry, maybe this late or this early in the season, I should say.
Okay. Yeah, it never felt like we ran away from 11 to 14. Like they were up, for stretches, but I don't really remember them ever.
There was 1 year, I think it might have been 2011, where they went bonkers in September, and it was like they were close with the White Sox, and then at the end of the year they were up by 16 games. But I don't know.
I think that is right because I remember us like destroying a couple of very notorious White Sox pitchers and Joe Creedy being sad.
No, yeah, it's in this like terms of this early in the
Okay.
season being 20 games over 500, probably 2006. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
um,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
But Adam, I will probably be out in Erie probably the end of the month. I'm going out of town. I'm going out of town tomorrow for a week. I'm going to Minnesota for work.
I'm going to be in Minnesota in 2 weeks
Oh, nice.
Really?
and
For
3
work?
weeks. Yep.
Oh, so you get to hang out at the airport, huh?
Yep.
I have a ramen place you can check out. There's it was highly recommended. So
Oh,
All
nice.
right. I'll give it a try.
yeah, there's a really good ramen apparently. My buddy Ben was telling me about it.
The other thought about catcher is that AJ Hinch and those guys coached up. Oh my God, our boy Eric
Kelly?
Haas. No, Eric
Haas.
Haas, and then Carson Kelly both, and turned them into better catchers than they were. So they can do that too with someone if they need to.
Yeah.
Probably not much of a concern long term.
Yeah, I'm out. Yeah, I think that. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I mean, there's also the very strong possibility that these guys don't work out. Sometimes prospects don't do what you want them to.
Yep.
But we'll see.
Yeah, plenty of time to see. So, Jason, before we move on to West Michigan, I've been saying this a lot, and I know it sounds like a broken record, but you're absolutely right. This is the most stacked I've seen the Tigers organization top to bottom in ever close to my lifetime. And there was a gentleman on our Phil Jones, who is a Patreon member. If you want to join a Patreon to help us support, by all means, a couple bucks a month goes a long way. And he said this is the happiest he's been since the 70s, watching the farm system. And remember him going to Tiger games. That was the coolest thing I've seen. It's just a cool thing to see there. But for him to say that.
You just look at guys who are well down the prospect list, like Jackson Strong, Patrick Lee, some of these guys, like the athletes that they are, the tools that they have. They just never had these guys.
Yeah.
There was like any one of these guys would have been like top 10, just because he's got power and he's got speed. Even if they couldn't hit at all, and now these guys can barely crack like a top 40, top 50 list right now. It's just radically different. Everybody can pitch. Like there's so many guys in the farm system now who at least have a slim chance of being a reliever. Whereas, 10 years ago, it was like there were 3 or 4 guys who might have any shot at all. So it's crazy. It's crazy to see. I feel like in retrospect, I left some certain guys off my prospect list just because it went on too long. And, it wasn't even like, well, I don't think they compare. It was like, there's just kind of a bunch of extra guys who might work out. Dylan Smith among them. So
yeah, we just did our
Pacheco as well. So,
we just did our update, our kind of end of May, early June update, and we had 6 different people make their lists, and we stopped at 39 because that was how many people got 4 votes.
Oh yeah.
There were 51 people who got at least 3 votes, and there were 90 players like total that at least got 1 vote.
Yep.
It was like nobody has 90 prospects, but there's 90 interesting players in the system to talk about.
Yeah, 90 guys that at least have one tool, one major league looking tool. Yeah, which is pretty darn good. You guys, who was number 1? McGonigal, I assume.
Yeah.
We had McGonigal won, and Clark and Rayner were very close for number 2. Clark ended up winning because he got a couple of first place votes. Rayner got 3 second place votes.
I can see it. I can see it either way. Like I think I favor Rayner maybe just a little, but I also think maybe I've kind of underestimated Max Clark a little bit just out of the power concern, and some of that's kind of like I'm probably over sweating what's happening on the field as opposed to what he's going to do, because when he sets his mind to pulling the ball, he seems to be able to do it. So
I want to play
every time Chris calls him out for that. Max Clark, if you're watching this, pull some balls in the air for us, bro. We'll shut up.
No, I will say what I enjoyed about Max Clark this evening was ripping on those douchebags.
Autograph people.
The autograph people that, like, for example, they have to sneak out Roman Anthony and laundry.
Yeah.
What the hell? If you're a grown man and you're waiting for him outside for hours, shame on you. Go get a hobby. Seriously.
Max Clark is a smart young man. Yeah. I would just say, like, a lot of the takes that you see from him on non-baseball topics or kind of secondary baseball topics are really smart. It's also cool that he's obviously watching all the games. Like, when they're not playing, he's shouting out support to everybody. So that's cool.
That's how much of a consumer of baseball he is. The people that are waiting outside in line for him, go watch a game. That's what you go do. That's what you do. You do that instead of waiting for an autograph from somebody. But here's a piece of audio I wanted everybody to play. And Brandon, I'm not sure if you heard this, but this was the Mike Nichols. Is it Mike Nichols?
Tom
Nichols. Sorry, Tom Nichols of the Dayton Dragons. And this soundbite, as Deadly Ninja B said, it says it all.
Oh yeah.
I don't have some of the fans watching are West Michigan fans because we're on MILB TV.
Well, you got a great team.
Yeah, they do. And they would know maybe better than I do what changes the Tigers made, because for years and years we would play this team and they would have a lineup filled with college draft picks out of the SEC and the ACC who could not play. And somewhere along the way, they figured it out.
Yeah.
I don't have.
So I thought that's saying something right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's just interesting to hear that perspective from somebody outside of the organization or somebody else who's not us, right?
Yeah.
It's like, for a long time they just had all these AC. Like that's what we've said forever. Like, they just drafted these guys because they saw them play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or there was, by the way, somebody commented, it was great. I forgot who it was, but there was a comment where they said that David Littlefield and David Chad would only show up to the tournament games. They were like, the only time the Littlefield was seen was at an STC tournament game. And I was like laughing my ass off because it was like very poignant. They were like basically calling him out. And it was funny because it's like, and then you think about it, you're like, holy crap, it's spot on, because here's why. The Tigers weren't going after guys like Jackson Strong at consensus. No one was out there. No one was, and the amount of like weird schools the Tigers are drafting from now is a far cry than it was a decade ago. It is, I mean, consensus?
Canisius.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Canisius.
Sacred Heart.
Or
home of Foley and Zach Short.
Was it Northeastern? Ben Malgeri.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just radically different. And we somebody just, who was it? Jake Giovanni with that thing about like people pretending to be Clark's family. The other topic that's going on a lot is the gambling thing and players like getting death threats all over the place now. And this was entirely foreseeable and it sucks. But I don't know. But the gambling den has been kicked open, and this is how it's going to be.
Who saw this coming was was that movie with Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis?
The Last Boy Scout.
The Last Boy Scout. It was directed by Tony. Tony, his brother, did Gladiator.
Tony Scott.
Tony Scott.
Yeah.
He saw this coming. The opening scene of The Last Boy Scout is absurd. There's a football player trying to return a kick, and he pulls out a gun and shoots the defense because of gambling debts. That's where we're headed.
Oh, yeah, that's the dude who directed Crimson Tide and Top Gun and True Romance. Wow.
Yeah, he directed a ton of he was a lot less like artistic than his brother, if you will, but he was all about like these action movies, and unfortunately I think he
committed suicide.
Yeah. But like I think he did that Train movie with Denzel Washington. Like he's all about like just crazy action movies. Yeah.
He did Liam Neeson's Wolf movie.
Oh,
did he do that Wolf movie? Wow.
The Gray. Yeah.
So by the way, I love the way Chris put this. Good Lord. Outscored Dayton 62-22. Yeah.
It was ugly, man.
Yeah. The Dayton announcer said it's the most runs that they'd ever given up, and that happened by game 5, the most runs they've ever allowed in a series, the first time they'd ever lost 6 games, and since they went to the 6-game series, just a bludgeoning, and you could see the numbers there. Like Briseño was the player of the week because he hit 5 home runs, and it walked 6 times, but then McGonigal got robbed. You go 13 for 22 with a homer and 3 doubles. It's 6 walks and no strikeouts, and you don't win player of the week.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But,
coin flip.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe they did a coin flip.
I think they probably. Briseño had a higher OPS, and so I think home runs are the king, right? So, but just a couple monster weeks.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and it's those guys, and then Pacheco, Stevenson hitting homers now. Like I don't know what they fed him over the offseason. Graham hitting a little bit. It's pretty exciting.
No, that Lee home run he hit the left. That was a laser. That was a bomb.
Oh, yeah.
We always talk about it. The tools in that kid are special. It's just if he hits enough.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's Clark got on. He walked 9 times and got 2 hits, so he's on base plenty.
What a
He's
scrub.
just he hasn't been the balls haven't been falling for him lately, so he's slumping. His average is down to like 260 now,
Yeah.
but he hasn't like noticeably changed his approach or anything like that. I think it's just kind of one of those weird things.
Yeah. He's still looking pretty good.
Yeah. The Lakeland took on it was weird. They split versus Tampa and Bradenton. So
Yeah.
another weird split week. So Chris cut our newest prospect, number 37, I believe on our list, 36, Lucas
Elisalt.
Allsalt.
I thought it was going to be Hrustich. Okay.
Elisalt, I've talked about him a little bit, and Jerry, I think, just wrote or he's writing the scouting report on him.
There's a scouting report available for him on our website.
He's a lot of fun to watch, man. It's like he knows what he's doing. He's got all the pitches. He throws strikes. It's just the velocity just isn't quite where you want it. But like everything else, he spins the ball well. He's got good shape on everything, and that's like, oh man, he's 20. Like it's like 6'4". Maybe he can grow a little bit, get down the mound a little bit harder. Like I don't know. It's sometimes it feels like you can add velocity to the guys very easily. Other times it's a lot harder than you think. But just a very interesting young prospect down there.
The Tigers do seem good at it, at least. But yeah, you just never know. Like some guys it'll take and some it won't. But yeah, I mean, they've had pretty good success, in recent years. And he already has like pretty nice mechanics. Like he repeats everything really well. He looks like the kind of guy that you could probably build up a little bit more too, I would agree. And yeah, I mean, good breaking stuff for sure. Pretty lively fastball despite the velocity. So
yeah, the metrics on it are good. Like that's like everything is there except for like a couple ticks of velocity.
Yeah.
If those come, like you've got yourself a real pitching prospect. And so this is their 13th round pick last year out of JUCO.
Yeah.
It's just they're finding these talented players just about everywhere.
It's a good example of them, like not just scouting, but also like scouring, going out there and being on the ground, going to high school games, going to small college games, keeping their ears open. So it's not just like scraping all the data; it's still having that big scouting presence out there as well.
Yeah, and finding the kids who were willing to turn pro. It's that Jude Warwick was the round before that. They gave him $250,000, so that was like they saved $100,000 in their bonus pool to give to this kid out of Illinois who's wasn't on any real radar. He was committed to Michigan State, but he had a good senior year in high school, and he's athletic, and he's got some tools, and they signed him, and he's been really fun in the complex league. So, just going the extra mile that we didn't see for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
As far as reason why Melton's up is because they had injuries to Mercado, and the Whitecaps rotation's been a little bit banged up. But as far as like Rainer Castillo, I think Rainer Castillo might be suffering a little bit of dead arm because if you think about it, he pitched in the Arizona Fall League. He's been pitching for a while, so maybe he might need a little bit of a break. I don't know why his velocity's down a couple of miles per hour. He's not getting that same swing and miss stuff. Chris and I were talking about this yesterday on our top 39 breakdown part 1 a little bit. So I don't know what's going on with him, but something to keep your eye on because I think it's just maybe he has been pitching for a while. I mean, like he hasn't really had a break. So,
and maybe he didn't have enough of an off season to sort of build himself up any. So he's just, maybe it just feels like he, basically like got back to baseline. But yeah, we don't really know. But it, he looks the same. Like he's moving okay and everything. It's just, and he's always had like pretty easy velocity, but it's just not coming out hot right now. So we'll just have to see what they can do about that. And then we had the Gabriel Reyes situation where he was, whatever, out of shape or just wasn't dialed in the way they wanted him to be in the spring. So there's been a couple of guys who've been slow starters that way.
He just had his best outing, which is nice to see. But it just kind of an odd situation where you not only don't move up, but you don't even return to the level you were at. You're in extended spring or complex league. It's like something strange happened there.
Yeah.
But these teams are all winning constantly.
Regularly. Yep.
They're Lakeland's in first place. West Michigan's in first place. Erie's tied for first place. Toledo's just out of first place. The complex league team lost. They split a game today, or split a doubleheader with the Blue Jays today. Blue Jays are in first place, but they're 2 games out. It's just wins.
Yep, Rayner just just acclimating to breaking balls. That's kind of all that's going on. You throw him fastballs, anything hittable, he's absolutely lasering everything still. So, he's just gonna have to learn to lay off some pitches a little bit more. But right now, like, he just looks like anything that is thrown, that looks like it will be a strike out of the hand, he's swinging, and he has good discipline to both sides of the plate, not chasing off the plate, but we'll just have to kind of wait for the recognition to start to settle in there. But striking out a bit too much is not hurting his production at all, because it's just goddamn laser beams everywhere.
Yeah, it's hard to ask for more from him than you've seen. Like the power is insane.
Yep.
The at least the raw power, right? Like and the speed is better than advertised. The arm is insane. The defense is good. He's got the highest ceiling in the system.
Yeah,
I think McGonigal has a very underrated ceiling. People don't seem to recognize how good he could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rayner's is through the roof. Like if he's a 50 grade hitter or 60 grade hitter, he's like, MVP level player.
Yeah, it's true.
So as far as the FSL and DSL 1 and 2 go, the DSL started today and FSL has been going on. So Daniel, by the way, is a former Cincinnati player, and he's off to, Twins positional outfielder, and he's off to that's a good stat line. Holy crap.
Yeah, he's striking. We watched him in that one little clip, and it was like, it's fine. But yeah, he's striking out everybody as a former shortstop who's just like throws in the low 90s with some good shape and an interesting slider. It's like, well, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Kelvis Salcedo is a guy who Longenhagen put on the Tigers top 39, I think, as a fun guy, and he's pitching well. Jank Diaz has been pitching well. It's
yeah.
Now, Ethan Scheffelbein hasn't pitched in like 2 weeks, and I don't know what's going on there. He's not on the injured list. He's not listed on anything, so they may be working with him on something, but I don't know. Hard to explain that one.
Yes, Paul Wilson got hurt, right?
Yeah, he's out for the year.
Yeah, so there've been some bummers.
Yeah, their high school picks have not been terribly great so far. Like you see the interesting stuff in all of them, but you've got basically Jonathan Rogers and I think he's the only guy who's like largely avoided injury.
Yeah.
Diaz was a little bit hurt last year. Wilson's hurt. Hall
is hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Scheffelbein, we don't know. Zach Swanson's hurt. Andrew Dunford is hurt. Like they just who was the other lefty they got from San Diego? He's hurt.
Yeah, Dickerson.
Yeah,
Blake Dickerson. So. Yeah. So they had a lot of arms that were like projectable and likable, but so far, everything's just kind of stalled out. But you take a lot of high school pitchers. Maybe this is just how it goes early on. So
learning. Yeah, I think there's just a learning process too with those guys too, especially if they're starting to change their mechanics. There could be the higher risk of injury with that.
Yeah,
they'll take some more this year. Well, like the Owen Hall injury is a shoulder stress reaction, which they like. If you look that up online, it's called Little League shoulder.
Yeah,
it's from people pitching too much before their growth plates are like finished. So I mean, that's one of the things that comes up, and that's not necessarily like a season-ending injury. I could see him coming back at the end of the season in the Florida State League. So that's good news as long as there's nothing more serious there. But it's just this is what happens when you get young guys who have good arms, but they're learning to throw strikes and learning how to command all their pitches. It's interesting to see because we were so used to the Tigers taking whenever they took a high school pitcher, it was like a Rick Porcello, like these super advanced guys, or Joe who are throwing strikes at a pretty advanced level, and then you see these other kids who they're not first rounders for a reason, and it's like, oh yes, this is a lot more. You have to deal with a lot more here.
Yeah, there's a lot more work of refinement with those guys for sure. But at least the theory goes, of course, as you guys all know, that you get them young, you improve their mechanics, you build up their body the right way from the beginning, you don't overwork them, and hopefully they turn out better than they would have if they had gone to college and you drafted them that way.
Yeah, or go to Rice University and have your arm pitch until your arm fell off.
Right. Trying to win some like MAC conference tournament or something. You're like throwing
and this is
100 pitches in an outing and stuff.
SWAC conference.
Yeah.
Why Jerry and I are fully on board the Yonan Koba hype train, which I think we're the only two who voted for him. But one day we'll see what happens with him.
He's gonna get there.
I need to see more. I mean, Koba. He has a sweet name though.
it's a sweet name, and you see him out there at 18, touching 97, and got feel for change up and dropping in breaking balls for strikeouts. You're like, I don't know, man. Like, this could be interesting,
We
but
might have it here.
it's the DSL, so what can you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know who we missed talking about is my boy Troy Melton a little bit, and
Yeah.
I just feel like we're getting to a point where like in the next like month, it's gonna pop for him. I feel like it's coming.
He's got. Yeah, I mean, his numbers are great. He's striking out a lot of people. He's getting a lot of swing and miss. His FIP is like 2.2.
Yeah. He's only allowed one home run. He hasn't.
Yeah.
He hasn't.
He cut the home runs entirely this year so far. Yeah.
He's just had a couple of those outings that got away from him where it was like 30 pitches in an inning and he had to come out, and so he doesn't have the innings to qualify. But yeah, like
and get hit in the shin too.
It does feel like like
hit in the shin. Yeah, that's true.
He's a guy who could move up to Toledo, I think, in time. And I think Rod, you heard that they really like him.
Oh yeah, they like Hinch has said pretty much if he could have Milton now, he would. That's how much they really think of him. How high, yeah. So it's
and Melton does kind of also make sense as a guy who, if they want to kind of take it easy on him, like in the second half, like maybe you pen him for the Tigers. That's a possibility, and just let him throw 100 and rip that breaking ball and change up and just go to work. So that's something to keep an eye on.
I mean, I also at the same time, I also think,
and then Mark Garage can be like, oh, reliever. And I'll be like,
no, and that's what I'm saying. No, I'd rather like them go and put Burhan in the bullpen, and that way I could prove Mark wrong. To prove Mark wrong, to go that way to prove Mark wrong.
Yeah. No, it just doesn't. It just doesn't mean what it used to. Like relief projection isn't the same thing as it was. 10 years ago. That might mean like you're a spot starting, 2-inning guy. It could mean all kinds of things. Could mean you relieve and then you convert to starting, like Michael King. You never know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Or Jordan Hicks, or a whole bunch of guys we can think of. Who's the guy with the Braves? Who used to be on the White Sox?
Delgado. No.
Sale?
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Shoot, what is his name? Yeah.
He's literally on my fantasy team. This is embarrassing.
He was in the Lucas Giolito trade long ago.
Yeah, it's Ronaldo Lopez. Thank you.
Yeah.
God.
In my head, I was like, Raynel Delgado. Like, who the hell is that? Is that even a player?
It's getting too late at night, apparently.
Yeah.
Grandpa
there is a Raynel Delgado. Who is he?
Yeah, who is it?
A second baseman, third baseman for the Milwaukee Brewers. I watch too much minor league baseball.
Yeah.
So, by the way, Daily Ninja B said, I can't handle all this positivity.
I hear you. I hear you, dude. It makes me uncomfortable, too. I feel like I'm slacking, but sometimes it's just the way it is,
Yeah, I mean, I have to. No, I can't. Look. I can. If you want me to be negative, go for it. Then I can say, well, Jaden Hamm's been struggling, and I can be a nitpick, and there's certain things.
Struggling to take the lead.
There's depth issues. There is depth issues. This system is top heavy. Look. I'll say that. I might be the only person that says that, but this system is a little top heavy. If you think about it,
I'll say like the 5 to 10 isn't as good as it could be, and then but then like 10 to 50 is kind of like, wow, there's a lot of guys that could come on.
You can throw in a pot and go from there.
Yeah,
so Deadly Ninja Bees, go ahead, Chris.
It's like any year in the minors that some guys kind of pop and like they're prospects when they weren't prospects before. Some guys that you thought were really good or just kind of struggle. It's the old classic, the development takes time and it doesn't always go in a straight line. But yeah,
it's not linear, Chris.
Yes, I was trying to say that without saying that because it's what everybody says. But it's fun to be positive because the Tigers are very good right now, and all their minor league teams are very good. You have to go looking for stuff to complain about. Yeah.
Jace Young isn't really hitting, and there's little things, but overall, especially because the team itself is so good. Like you just look at this top 5, and it's like you could damn near trade everybody else. And we're probably good for about 6-7 years as long as you do a really good job restocking from there, because it's loaded.
That was the other thing we mentioned when we were doing our recap of the top 5. It's Kevin McGonigal, who's 20. It doesn't turn 21 until August, I think, or September. It's Max Clark, who's 20. Doesn't turn 21 until December. It's Bryce Rayner, who's 19. Doesn't turn 20 until next month. It's Josue Briseño, who's 20. It's played 200 career games. It doesn't turn 21 until September. It's Lorenzo, who's 21. He doesn't turn 22 until next month. I think
he's 22 and he's still young.
22.
Yeah.
Campos is just about to turn 22. Like
Mm-hmm.
These are all young, really talented offensive players. And we just have never been able to say that for the Tigers in our lifetimes.
Yeah. I mean, if we want a fun topic, like, is this Big Five better than the Riley, Torque, Mize, Skubal, Manning? Because I think it's
yeah, I
close.
mean,
It's close, but I'm gonna have to say yes because the pitching was always a little bit like, how are these guys going to play out? We all thought Torque would be, kind of what he is right now. Maybe not a superstar, but like a low average, power hitter for sure.
Here's the thing, when that all was going on, I always thought it was just three and that was it. It was the big three and then it was just kind of a drop off after that. Like it was Skubal, Torkelson, and Green to me. That's what my big three was. Mm-hmm. Then Colt Keefe was the one that came up and was part of that next wave, if you will.
Yeah, that was a little after.
Yeah, a little bit after. And then, you have unexpected hits like Kerry Carpenter coming out of nowhere he hit 3 home runs. I mean, we haven't talked about him tonight. He hit 3 damn home runs. This is the 19th round. Yeah. And the Tigers have barely have ever had no late round success positional player wise ever.
Well, that's the thing is if you're desperate to give the previous regime some credit, you can look at those 3 drafts, the 19, 20, and 21, and look at the core of this team.
Yep.
But
you've got most of them.
But I'm gonna be this guy. Mm-hmm. But what do they have all in common? Ryan Garco was hired right around that time because they weren't. I will say this: there was nothing going on until Ryan Garco got hired. Period. Yep. I'm sorry. Like there's just to me, you can say, oh yeah, but then also here's another thing about the draft classes too. To be fair, they also started getting more input from the guys like the analytics guys too, because that's when they're all of a sudden going, all right, well, guys, let's also look at this guy. And they started having more input. And the more input that when they start having their small successes, that's when the old guys like Littlefield going, well, shit, we're screwed here. And so that's what started happening a little bit. Madden is, I think, out for the year, Jason. So I'm not really sure. We haven't seen him pitch or anything.
Their update, he's down doing bullpens and stuff in Lakeland. His was a shoulder issue, I think. So they're probably taking it really easy, but I don't know if they've officially named it, said he's out for the year yet. Yeah. He could come back and be another relief arm, maybe.
I just haven't heard a thing like a peep. So
it definitely feels like at least after the All-Star break, before you even kind of hear anything, he's just in rest and late throwing mode, something like that.
But also, we sometimes they just pop up suddenly, oh, Ty Madden's making a rehab outing tomorrow. Right. That's what happened with Tyler Madison. It's like I was like, where's Tyler Madison? Somebody's like, oh, he's rehabbing tomorrow. I'm like, well, there you go. Yeah. He's throwing 90, 92, which is unfortunate, but there's time. We'll give him time.
He just needs a little bit of time. It'll be all right.
So, but as far as we'll end the podcast with this because it's getting a little late there. And how did Alex Cobb pass a physical when he signed his contract? He has hips of a 9-year-old. That was unfortunately I did hear what's going on with Alex Cobb, and that was kind of sudden. It wasn't. I mean, he has been banged up, but
was it a pickleball injury? Is that what
it was? It was a pickleball injury.
Was it?
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, and it does feel like they're kind of going through the motions there because they need to for the purposes of saying okay, we tried this, it doesn't work. Now we can file a claim.
Right.
The results were fine, right? But he's not moving well.
My other working theory was just that he has this thing that's wrong with him, and he can always go on the IL. But he can also still kind of pitch because he pitched fine. Apparently, he just cannot move off the mound.
Yeah,
he can't run. He can't. So
cringing the entire time. Just every time he went to his release point, pain.
Oh,
pain,
really?
Pain. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Forget it then. I just thought he couldn't run, maybe, and that was part of the issue. Because all along I just thought maybe Harris just stashed this dude because we could put him on the IL whenever he wanted.
Yeah. Well, then there's still Jose Urquidy that's out there somewhere. He could come back in August or September and join the team. So
they've got some stashes there, and it's good timing for Sawyer to come back. Hopefully Olsen won't be much longer too, and they'll probably go right on as they were.
Yeah, when you increase your usage of throwing a changeup because you're blowing the ring finger, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's all it is to it. So
that ring finger's got to get stronger, Reese. You're not married yet. It's not used to carrying that weight.
the babyface hasn't captured a woman yet, but it's gonna get there at some point.
I mean,
but,
doesn't he know to like dig into the rice and
Rest and nice, yeah.
get into the rice bag, bro?
Oh, I've never heard that in a while. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. So again, if you go to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe to it. There's like I said, the Roberto Campos interview is in Spanish, but if you are not lazy, take the 6 minutes to read the transcripts in English, because I put that in English for everybody.
That's a great interview. I enjoyed it a lot.
That's such a good niche for you. Like there's just so few reporters that speak good enough Spanish to like go interview these guys, and there's just like a million interviews waiting to happen as a result. So
thank you. It was much in hearing to him saying that they're fans of the fans of the website and what we do and
that's cool.
Everything. And I just get in my own head about like speaking Spanish, because I'm always like, oh, like growing up when your cousins in Spain are like, your Spanish sounds like Chinese or whatever. So it's like, it's
the Tigers guys will probably teach you, dude.
Yeah. No, and that's the same. Campos said it sounded fine. So
you have to bring them empanadas, but
I'm bringing empanadas.
I don't want to hear any lessons on Spanish from Spanish people with their actividad.
Yeah. A veces con los españoles, cuando estás hablando con los españoles. My mom would bust out, like, when we go to Spain, I know where my mom would go from like normal Spanish to just go, Rogelio, a ver, ¿qué estás haciendo? Va a cocinar hoy, va a coche. She would always say carro. It was always carro. Yeah. But then when we go to Spain, all of a sudden, vamos a coche. What? Wait, why are you saying car in the proper way in Spanish? But that's how it was. Like,
right. When you go to Spain, it's like a American trying to put on a British accent. It's pretty much what it does.
They all sound like Holly Hunter.
Yeah. Yeah. Or Dick Van Dyke at worst.
That's Holly Hunter reference. That's good.
I used to marry Pulpins,
But Greg Ging told me, the voice of the who's doing voice Tigers as well, told me that I could use the Erie Seawolves kitchen to cook the guys' empanadas. So I am planning on doing that. I plan on cooking some black beans and rice, and go full blown style. So we're gonna make a whole spectacle out of it, and hopefully Chris, hopefully you can come in. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna miss that.
Yeah,
I will. I may be in Pittsburgh for most of the summer, so I'll see what I can do.
You're gonna be in Mary Tyler Moore country too soon, with Minnesota, and just
short drive, right?
Yeah,
you just jump in a horse and buggy.
Pittsburgh's not bad. It's 4.5 hours. I can't drive to Minneapolis. I mean, I could, but I don't want to.
Yeah. That's a brutal drive. But so thanks so much for watching. And Thursday will be for Motor City Metrics. More than likely be Chris, Mike, and Uber. I will not be around. I will be, like I said, I'll be in Minnesota starting tomorrow. So I'll be basically offline a little bit. But I'm going to try to go see Saints game on Wednesday. We'll see. I think the Saints are in town.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So for myself, Brandon, stay classy, everybody. I know we too. Sorry, I know you came in late, but check out the rest of the pod. It will be up the replay.
It was amazing, bro. Amazing.
Yeah. Until everybody, have a good night.
All right.
I can't find faults, folks.